Where has Peter Jackson gone? And how did he manage to become the king of two completely different genres, trash comedy and fantasy? It's been 10 years since the premiere of the last Hobbit film, and the director has practically vanished from the spotlight. Now, Warner Brothers has announced a new Lord of the Rings movie is on the way, so it's the perfect time to talk about the man who created the greatest film trilogy in history. Peter Jackson was born on October 31st, 1961 in New Zealand. From an early age, he was fascinated by photography. At age 8, he was given a video camera and began filming various skits with friends and short puppet movies. One of his first puppet films was King Kong. Young Peter simply remade one of his favorite movies. Even then, he paid great attention to special effects. For example, he would puncture the film in specific spots to simulate gunshots. Special effects would later become a crucial part of his life as a director, but more on that later. Jackson started out making all sorts of films. As he put it himself, he had lots of ideas, all of Hollywood scale, and to make them happen, he needed money and experience.
It was really, I was thinking of ideas that were Hollywood, big budget films, and I had a little Super 8 camera that couldn't shoot sound.
His early work was mostly black trash comedies about zombies and vampires. After starting work at a newspaper in 1983, Jackson could finally afford a decent camera, and over the next 4 years, he created his first full-length film, Bad Taste. The film had no script. Everything was made up on the fly and shot on weekends. The actors were Peter's friends and colleagues, and Jackson himself played 2 roles. There's even a scene where his 2 characters fight each other. From then on, Jackson would make cameo appearances in nearly every one of his films. According to the plot, evil aliens come to Earth to turn people into fast food, and the main characters fight back. The film was made on a shoestring budget. Props were handmade. The alien masks were baked in Jackson's parents' kitchen, weapons made from wood and aluminum. Rails, tripods, and camera cranes were also homemade.
Normally if you buy a proper one, they're about 40 or 50 grand, but this one cost $20. And it sort of works basically the same principle where you can move the camera around, follow people while they're running.
Bad Taste was full of absurd humor, gore, and dark comedy. Jackson wasn't just the director and lead actor. He also operated the camera and edited the entire film himself. New Zealand's Film Commission heard about the project and allocated Jackson additional funding, allowing for a more elaborate ending. The film was even screened at the Cannes Film Festival and later released in 12 countries.
Now, what are you dirty whoas doing on my planet?
Next came the satirical puppet film Meet the Feebles.
Put your hands together for the fabulous Feebles Variety Hour.
Another dark comedy full of crude toilet humor. Its slogan, a puppet movie for adults with something to offend everyone. The screenwriter was Fran Walsh, Jackson's wife. From Feebles onward, Walsh and Jackson would work together on every one of his films, including all of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. The project was originally meant to be a TV show, but investors provided enough funding for a full-length feature. Quick aside, despite the crude puppetry and grotesque humor, the film is actually deep and well thought out. It harshly satirizes much of the entertainment industry. One memorable character is a journalist fly shown eating from a toilet in extreme close-up.
Meet the Feebles. We're not your average ordinary people. Meet the Feebles. Meet the Feebles.
Though good, these were still amateur low-budget films. Jackson's first studio film was another dark comedy with horror elements, Braindead, also known as Dead Alive.
Holy shit! Look at this! It bit me! I've been savaged!
Another aside, I'm a huge fan of the genre, and I was completely blown away by Braindead. It's not for everyone. Honestly, it's disgusting, visually, I mean. Some scenes are outright revolting. When it was released, more than 30 years ago, it was revolutionary. No wonder it became a cult classic. Even today, the makeup and effects hold up well. Just the final scene alone used over 400 liters of fake blood. The level of violence, gore, and insanity is off the charts. It's a very specific type of film. Definitely don't eat while watching it. This marked the end of Jackson's black comedy phase. In 1994, he released the dark psychological drama Heavenly Creatures, exploring obsession, teen violence, and mental illness. Based on the real-life story of two New Zealand schoolgirls who murdered one of their mothers in 1991, the film stands out in Jackson's filmography for its realism and complex characters. It earned Jackson and Walsh their first Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay, and also won the Silver Lion at the Venice Film Festival.
Juliet, reach out for Jesus!
Forgotten Silver. Forgotten Silver was a prank that spiraled out of control. It's a mockumentary about fictional New Zealand filmmaker Colin Mackenzie, who supposedly invented color film, sound in cinema, and pioneered modern filmmaking, only to have his work lost due to personal tragedy, then rediscovered decades later.
I opened the chest and I found the most extraordinary collection of films. These were 35mm films.
Many major Hollywood figures participated in the film, including Harvey Weinstein, all praising Mackenzie's genius. It was aired as a real documentary in New Zealand, only for the creators to admit days later it was a hoax. The archival footage was actually shot by Jackson and then artificially aged. In 1996, Jackson released his first Hollywood film with a big budget, The Frighteners, a horror comedy starring Michael J. Fox. The film was controversial, with much of its style attributed to producer Robert Zemeckis rather than Jackson. It also flopped at the box office. However, it opened the door to Hollywood. Jackson discovered Tolkien's work through the 1978 animated film and later read the entire trilogy in 12 hours, wondering why it hadn't yet been adapted into a movie. Ultimately, he decided he had to do it himself.
But it cannot stay in the Shire.
No, it can't.
The road to the Lord of the Rings was long. Jackson secured the rights in 1997, originally proposing a two-film adaptation to Miramax and Harvey Weinstein. Miramax provided a $75 million budget for two films, but insisted on filming in the US. Jackson wanted to shoot in New Zealand, and when Miramax tried to cut the story into a single movie, Jackson left for New Line Cinema, which backed a full trilogy. Filming began on October 11, 1999. The Lord of the Rings trilogy changed cinema forever. In the 20 years since The Return of the King, no film has matched its scale and impact, not Harry Potter, not Pirates of the Caribbean, nor any other blockbuster. The trilogy earned Jackson countless awards, including 30 Oscar nominations and 17 wins. He became a superstar and won the trust of both Hollywood executives and audiences worldwide.
You're supposed to be shooting on the backlot.
Yes, I understand that, but fellas, we're not making that film anymore. And I'll tell you why. The story has changed. The script has been rewritten. Life intervened.
After The Lord of the Rings, Jackson took a break. He didn't plan to return to Middle-earth, but he did want to pay tribute to his childhood favorite, King Kong. Work on the remake began in 1995, but was delayed by The Frighteners and The Lord of the Rings. Eventually, Jackson made King Kong, earning a record-breaking $20 million paycheck, the highest ever for a director at the time. Jackson had made a King Kong short film as a child and was a huge fan of the 1933 original. The 2005 version was a technical masterpiece, winning 3 Oscars. The central character, Kong himself, had to feel alive and real, so Jackson cast a human actor to play him. Enter Andy Serkis, who had already brought Gollum to life. The film was a critical and box office success, earning $562 million on a $207 million budget. Jackson's next major project was The Lovely Bones, based on Alice Sebold's novel and starring Saoirse Ronan. A story of the afterlife seen through a child's eyes, it became the lowest-rated film of his career.
Good. Tell him I said hi. You know, you're the perfect person for me to run into. Because I just built this thing over here and I want to get a second opinion. Do you mind taking a look?
Jackson's lifelong passion was special effects. He always preferred practical effects, but when Jurassic Park came out in 1993, he realized the future was digital. That same year, he founded Weta Digital, a VFX company. A computer was purchased just for Heavenly Creatures, simply to try CGI. In The Frighteners, 30 computers were used. Weta was responsible for the groundbreaking effects in The Lord of the Rings, 2,730 CGI scenes, or 3,420 in the extended editions, created by over 500 artists. Weta also brought King Kong to life and later contributed to Planet of the Apes, Avatar, the Marvel and DC universes, The Hobbit, and many others. In 2021, Jackson sold Weta Digital for $1.6 billion. In late 2006, development began on The Hobbit. Legal disputes between Jackson's Wingnut Films and New Line temporarily removed him from the project. The conflict was resolved a year later, and the studio greenlit 2 new Middle-earth films. Jackson became a producer, with Guillermo del Toro as director.
Well, that's decided. It'll be very good for you. And most amusing for me.
However, pre-production dragged on, and del Toro left in 2010. Jackson stepped in as director in October that year. Filming began in March 2011. In 2012, it was announced the project would be expanded to 3 films. The Hobbit didn't reach the critical heights of The Lord of the Rings, but it was still among the best fantasy films ever made. It even out-earned the original trilogy. The Hobbit made $2.94 billion versus The Lord of the Rings, $2.91 billion, though it also cost nearly 3 times as much to make. Another important, though not widely known, work by Peter Jackson is They Shall Not Grow Old. This 2018 documentary is a remarkable project composed of archival video and photographs from the time of World War I. Most of the footage was painstakingly restored and colorized to bring this century-old material to life with stunning clarity. The visuals are accompanied by voiceovers of real soldiers and officers recounting their wartime experiences. The story of the war is told entirely through their own words, from the outbreak of hostilities and the patriotic mood in Britain to what followed during and after the conflict. Viewers hear about how the soldiers were trained, the grim and exhausting life in the trenches, and the endless fields of mud where a man could literally drown. Jackson dedicated the film to his grandfather, who fought in World War I. Though Jackson preferred directing his own projects, he also served as producer on several notable films, including Neil Blomkamp's District 9, Spielberg's The Adventures of Tintin, technically challenging and handled by Weta, and Mortal Engines, where he also co-wrote the screenplay. On May 9th, 2024, Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav announced a new Lord of the Rings movie for 2026 titled The Hunt for Gollum. As the name suggests, it will center on Gollum, with Andy Serkis directing and reprising the role. Jackson will be a producer and likely co-writer, alongside the same team behind both trilogies. Peter Jackson has undoubtedly made a massive impact on cinema and become one of the greatest directors in history.